Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yes, poem. Dandavat. Čistý. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Je dost dobrý zvuk. Hare Krishna. Marko, ty Marko. Dan zaigral ti pa još timi. Da se vem ko je. Hare Krišna, Hare Krišna, Krišna Krišna, Hare Hare, hare-rama, hare-rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Abo. Abo.
Čudan stari. Krišna. Po moje je mogoče tale mateče kaj. Ko bom jaz začel bo Znači hudi. Pa res faca je. Joke. Organizacija na... Vishnupada Krishna prastaya bhutale Srimate bhakti vedanta Svaminiti namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Jai Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Bolo, bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Все добре. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol,
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol,
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jaya Jaya Goritai, 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 Jaya Jaya Goritai.
Jaya Jaya Gauri,
Jaya Jaya Goritai, 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 Jaya Jaya Goritai.
Jaya Jaya Gaurnitai, 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 Jaya Jaya Gaurnitai,
Jaya Jaya Goritai, 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 Jaya Jaya Goritai.
Jaya Jaya Gaurnitai, 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 Jaya Jaya Gaurnitai.
Radheshyam, Radheshyam, Jaya Sri Vrindavan Dham.
Jaya Jaya Radheshyam, 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 Jaya Giri Govardhan.
Jaya Jaya Radheshyam, 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 Jaya Sri Vrindavan Dham.
Jaya Jaya Radheshyam, 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 Jaya Giri Govardhan.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
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 Shri Panchatattva ki Sri Sri Gaurnitaya ki Srila Prabhupada ki Nitai Gaura Premananda.
Hare Krišna. Drage bakte, dragi gosti, lepo pozdravljeni. Danes je prav poseben dan, saj imamo festival o pojavitvi Šrita. Še vedno bo sledil kirtan do 6:30, potem bo Gora Arati, potem pa sledi predavanje njegove milosti Čandramali Svami Maharaja. Po končanem predavanju sledi tudi festivalski proslav. Še enkrat hvala glasbeni zasedbi, sedaj pa mogoče malo v drugačni stavi ali isti se nadaljuje s kirtanom. Hare Krišna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare-rama, Rama-rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krišna. Lepo pozdravljeni še enkrat, spoštovane gostje, spoštovane bakte. Sledi naslednja točka programa in sicer ples in petje pred božanstvi, tako imenovani gorarati. Hvala glasbeni ekipi, na začetku Bhakta Marko, potem Šarada Tilaka Mataji in Bhaktina Špela na harmoniju in so tako lepo vodili ta kirtan. Hvala Ajay Prabhuju na mridangi in hvala tudi zbranemu občinstvu za sodelovanje. Vsi lahko ustanemo, se pripravimo, kmalu bo Pujari odprl oltar in sledi Gora Arati. Would you like to hold it for you? Yes, I can put it.
Okay, we're ready to go.
Still going on? You need a push?
He's pushing. We are trying to follow him.
Somebody has to push. always have some energy left. But
Unless it comes from higher powers. It's not here. So your service is to dance.
okay.
Inspire everybody on. He's going to play too. Okay? As long as he plays with you.
Yes, he will play with me, yes.
Yeah, I mean, together.
Yes, we will play with him.
Okay, good. That's good. No, yeah, just as long as you synchronize.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. Okay. Your service is to dance. Your service is to make sure these guys dance.
Yes.
Okay. Shri Panchatattva ki jai. Yeah. Shri Gadadhar Pandit ki jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Krishna Prasthaya Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvisesa Sunya Vadi Pastyadhyade Santadine Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Harutike Sohai Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Harutike Sohai Harutike Sohai Gyan Havitanta Vani Jagamana Dhakini Taichan Bhagavad-Gita Nikateya Dvaita Srini Vasa Chatra Dhara Vasa Chatra Bosi Aching Ghoda Chan Ratna Simha Sari Haruti Ko Raina Brahma Hari Deva Kani Haruti Ko Hari 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 Kori Chamaradu Hey Chamaradu Sanjayamo Kundal Vasu Ghoshari Sankha Bhaje Gantu Bhaje Bhajikara Bhaje Bhajikara Madhur Ham here Danga Bhaje Bharamarasara Bhaje Sankha Bhaje Kanta Bhaje Madhu Madhu Madhur Bhaje Gauranga Madhu Sankha Bhaje Kanta Bhaje Madhu Madhu Madhur Bhaje Ranga Hey Sankha Bhaje Kanta Bhaje Madhu Madhu Madhur Bhaje Sankha Bhaje Kanta Bhaje Madhu Madhu Madhur Bhaje Hari Bhon Nitai Gaur Hari Bhon Nitai Gaur Hey Nitai Gaur Hari Bhon Hari Bhon Nitai Gaur Hari Bhon Nitai Jai Gaura Nitai Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jai, Gauranitai, Jai Gauranitai, 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 Jai, Gauranitai, Jai Gauranitai. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Kiva Baho Koti Chandra Jini Vadana Jvala Kala Deshe Vanna Mala Kore Jala Mala Kore Jala Shiva Sukha Dharada Preme Gagu Bhakti Nodha Dekhe Gora Sampai Kasa Ati Nodha Dekhe Kiva Jai Ho Jai Gaura Jandhe Aruti Ke Soha Gaura Jandhe Aruti Ke Soha Kiva Jai Ho Jaya Gaura Jandhe Aruti Ke Soha Gaura Jandhe Aruti Ke Soha Jnana Vidanta Vane Jagamana Lobhara Gaurangaya Hoti Sobha Jagadanam Mana Lobha Gaurangaya Hoti Sobha Jagadanam Mana Lobha Gaurangaya Hoti Sobha Jagadanam Mana Lobha Hey Gaurangaya Hoti Sobha Jagadanam Mana Lobha Gaurangaya Hoti Sobha Jagadanam Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nitya Nanda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gadadhara Shivasari. Jai Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Caitanya Gadadhara Shivasari Jai Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Caitanya anytime Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Jai Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Caitanya Nityananda Gaur Jai Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Prabhu Nityananda Dvaitam Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Home Hey Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hey Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Gauranga, Gauranga. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gauranga, Jai Mukunda. You're living up to your name. Hey! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hey Hey Oh Hey Hip Hip Hey Gauranga Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Gauranga Gauranga Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Gauranga Gauranga Hey Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hey Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ram Rama Hare Hare Hey Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. Nityananda, 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 Nityananda. Nityananda, Nityananda, Nityananda. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Nitai, 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 Nitai Gauranga. Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. Gauranga, 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 Gauranga. Nityananda, 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 Nityananda. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana. Nitai, 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 Nitai Gauranga. Nitai, 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 Nitai Gauranga. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Gauranga, Gauranga, Gauranga. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bhau, Hari Bhau, Hari Bhau, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bhau. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bhau, Hari Bhau, Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahangsa Brahmadakacharya Asidhara Situshi Shiman. His Divine Grace Lacy Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Samstavakacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahangsa Brahmadakacharya Asidhara Situshi Shiman. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhadraganath, Shri Jeev Gopala Das Raghunath, Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Prem Jago, Shri Krishna Caitanya Pranityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Gopa Gopinath, Shamakun, Radhakun, Giri Govindam Ki Jai. Matharadam Ki Jai, Vrindavandam Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai, ISKCON Ljubljana Ki Jai, Gangamai Ki Jai, Jamunamai Ki Jai, Srimati Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai, Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande Haribol, Slava Zabrani Bhaktam, Slava Zabrani Bhaktam, Slava Zabrani Bhaktam, Slava Shri Gurui Shri Grangi. Namo Vishnu Branka Shmastan Gute Shmastan Sasandi. Namaste Narasimhaya. Pralada Lada Daine Hiranya Kashi Purvakshaha Shiratam Kanakalaye Ito Nishingha Parato Nishingo Yato Yato Yamita To Nishingha Bahir Nishingo Ridaye Nishingo Nashingamadim Sharanam Prapaye Avakara Kamalava Nakam Adbhuta Shringa Talita Hiranya Kashipu Tanu Bringam Keshavadrita Narupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Nrsimhadev, Jaya Nrsimhadev, Nrsimhadev, Jaya Nrsimhadev. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Lakshmi Nrsimha Bhagavan Ki Jai, Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai, Kaur Premanande.
Hare Krišna. Hare Krišna. Hare Krišna. Sledi predavanje njegove svestosti Čandramali Svami Maharaja. Predavanje bo v angleškem jeziku in zato, če kdo rabi prevod, prevod je danes organiziran. Slušalke boste dobili pri Dojal Chandri Prabhuju na desni strani oziroma pri oknu. Prevajala bo pa Gaura Chandrana Mataji. Prosim, da s slušalkami skrbno ravnate in jih po koncu lekcije vrnete Dojal Chandri Prabhuju. Čandramali Svami Maharaja, njegovo svetost mi ni treba posebej predstavljati. Zdi se mi, da ga vsi poznamo. Je nekako zdaj naš Maharaj, ker je tudi tukaj v Ljubljani. Po enem mesecu se je nazaj vrnil in bo zdaj z nami nekaj tednov. Vljudno vabljeni tudi v prihajajočih dnevih na njegova predavanja, ki bo organizirana tukaj v skupnosti za zavest Krišne. Še trenutek, da gosta primerno, kako že, posedamo, mu podarimo garland, ima kozarec vode. Sedaj pa, dear Maharaj, Hare Krišna. I introduced you, yes, of course. So, what can I say? Enjoy.
Nothing.
Not Hare Krišna.
It's good to have people like that around. Makes things very exciting. Okay. Hare Krishna. So today we are honoring and also celebrating the appearance of Sri Gadadhar Pandit, Sri Krishna Caitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktarindam Panchatattva, whom we worship regularly here in Ljubljana. So he is a member of the Panchatattva. He is also Shakti. Panchatattva become Krishnam, Bhakta-rupa, Sarupakam, Bhakta-avataram, Bhakta-kyam, Namami Bhakti, Bhakta-shaktikam. He's Bhakta-shakti. So there's one beautiful verse here in the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita from Adi Lila, chapter 10. The chapter is called The Branches of the Caitanya Tree. And we'll read it's very succinct but very complete. Complete means that each line is power-packed with so much transcendental. Who is Gadadhar Pandit? Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktarinda. Chandra Gaura Bhaktarinda. Do you have the Sanskrit on the board? Can you? Oh, for the devotees, they can follow along. Mm-hmm. Okay. Bharasaka Gadadara Pandit Gosani Teno Lakshmi Rupatanra Samakehanai Bharasaka Gadadara Pandita Gosani Teho Lakshmi Rupatanra Samakehanai Bharasaka Gadadara Pandita Goshani Tenho Lakshmi Rupatanra Samakehanai. Anyone? Anyone? Any of the ladies? Mm-hmm. Bhadasaka, big branch. Gadadhar Pandit Goshani, the descendants or disciplic succession of Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit, Tenho, Gadadhar Pandit. Lakshmi Rupa, incarnation of the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. Tanra, his. Sama, equal. Keha, anyone. Nai, there is none. Translation. Gadadhar Pandit, the fourth branch, is described as an incarnation of the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna. No one, therefore, can equal him. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In the Gaura Gonidesh Deepika 147 through 153, it is stated, the pleasure potency of Sri Krishna, formerly known as Vrindavaneshwari, is now personified in the form of Gadadhar Pandit in the pastimes of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Sarup Damodar Goswami has pointed out that in the shape of Lakshmi, the pleasure potency of Krishna, she was formerly very dear to Lord as Shyamasundar Vallabha. The same Shyamasundar Vallabha was present in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes as Gadadhar Pandit. Formerly as Lalita Sakhi, she was also devoted to Srimati Radharani. Thus, Gadadhar Pandit is simultaneously an incarnation of Srimati Radharani and Lalita Sakhi. In the 12th chapter of this part of the Caitanya Charitamrita, there is a description of the descendants or disciplic succession of Gadadhar Pandit. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyana Jana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pastyatya De Satarine Panchakalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Pevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So very direct and complete and very powerful explanation in a very succinct form of who Gadadhar Pandit is. Ultimately, he is, Srimati Radharani again, to assist Lord Chaitanya in his pastimes in this Nam Sankirtan. The appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the year 1486. And we know, we can calculate that today, if you go back about a month and a half, you get to the Lord Chaitanya's appearance. So Gadadhar Pandit appeared in the same year as Lord Chaitanya, 1486, and he is only about a month and a half younger than Lord Chaitanya. Actually, they grew up together. Even as small children, they knew each other and were intimately connected. Unfortunately, we don't have much explanations, nor do, at least I don't, know where to look for some of the early pastimes of them together. But we know, as Nimai Pandit, Gadadhar Pandit was always there. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Gaya, after performing his pastimes as Nimai Pandit in Navadvip for a good portion of his early life, he was the arrogant scholar who was very much eulogized as the most intelligent and the most shastric learned in Navadvip at the time. But he carried around him somewhat of an arrogance about his position and his ability. Although he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, still he exhibited this kind of arrogance just to show that having attained such a prestigious position in the material realm of being a scholar, because in those days, as opposed to these days, scholarship, and especially about Shastra, was very much glorified as a great achievement. And persons were honored and supported by the entire society who excelled in these areas. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at one point left everything. And then he took initiation from Ishwarapuri in Gaya. And when he came back, he was a completely changed person. No more the arrogant scholar, now a very humble devotee who was addicted to chanting the holy names of the Lord, and one who sought out the association of the devotees in order to do service for them. Prior to that, he would challenge them in different ways on various shastric information. Like one time he said to Gadadhar Pandit, Gadadhar Pandit, what is the meaning of liberation? Give me your understanding. And Gadadhar Pandit very nicely explained that liberation means to be freed from all material attachments and material activities, and to enter into the association of the Lord in the Brahman effulgence. In other words, he gave a very correct and complete answer. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to him, Gadadhar Pandit, you don't know much. Go home, study your books, and tomorrow I'll ask you again. So this is how Lord Chaitanya would tease him in so many different ways. Now, Gadadhar Pandit, we have to explain a little bit about his nature. When we hear about and understand deeper the nature of Srimati Radharani in Sri Vrindavan Dham, she is known as a left-wing gopi. In other words, she sometimes opposes Krishna. She gets angry at Krishna. She criticizes Krishna. In other words, many times she is contrary in her relationship with Krishna. And that's an understanding of how the loving expression reaches higher and higher moods of happiness and ecstasy when there are various types of expressions in that loving relationship. And Srimati Radharani is expert in bringing forth these moods and giving Krishna transcendental pleasure. But here, the same Krishna, Lord Caitanya, is Krishna himself, but he also carries within his mood the internal mood of Srimati Radharani. But he's Krishna. And Gadadhar Pandit, as Srimati Radharani appearing again, is completely the opposite. So peaceful, so mild, so sweet, and so obedient to Lord Caitanya that there's nothing contrary or even the slightest bit of what we say, friction between them. But Lord Caitanya would tease Gadadhar Pandit, and Gadadhar Pandit would just accept it. And so now, after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned from Gaya, he was a completely different person. He was just always talking about Krishna, encouraging the devotees in their devotional service. And he was exhibiting various types of ecstasy. One of the first meetings between Gadadhar Pandit and Lord Chaitanya was at the house of Nilambara Chakravarti. No, I'm sorry, what was his name? Yeah, Nilambara Chakravarti, I think so, yeah. Huh? Yeah. One of the associates of Lord Chaitanya, it might have been Nisringa, not Nisringa, but that one brahmachari, what was his name? Nisringa brahmachari, there was another one. Anyway, it was a great personality. And they had a program at the house where there was kirtan, and Lord Chaitanya started to dance in ecstasy and exhibit very deep mellows of love for Krishna and his loving expression. And Gadadhar Pandit saw that for the first time, and he was overwhelmed with attraction to Lord Chaitanya. And that was one of the first incidents where the Lord exhibited such moods in public. And this continued to go on, but his mother, Sachi Mata, she couldn't understand what was happening to her son. He was acting really differently, and he would cry, he would call out loud, and sometimes he would fall on the ground, and he would just exhibit various types of emotions. She was concerned, thinking there was something wrong with him. Maybe he needs a doctor. So she would call different Kavirajas, and the Kavirajas would come and say, "This is serious. He's got this wind disease." And now wind disease, when you translate it into medical terms, it's epilepsy. So the doctors would say, well, you have to take him and bathe him in various types of herbal oils, and this may help. But she tried and that didn't work. And someone said you have to take Shiva ghee and rub it on his head. That didn't work. So she was kind of discouraged. She couldn't do anything. And her son, he was exhibiting all of this ecstasy. Finally, one time, he was with Gadadhar Pandit. And then all of a sudden, he went into ecstasy. He said, "Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? I'm feeling lost without Krishna. Where is Krishna?" And Gadadhar Pandit immediately said, "Be calm, my lord." I don't know if he didn't call him my lord. He said, "Be calm. Krishna is in your heart." Oh, that's all he had to hear. In the mood of Hanuman, he started ripping his chest open to see Krishna in his heart. And Gadadhar Pandit was saying, "Oh no." So he grabs his hands and he's trying to hold it. Lord Chaitanya is strong. And he's struggling. He's saying, "Be peaceful, be patient. Krishna's coming, Krishna's coming, Krishna's coming." And gradually, by the power of Gadadhar's devotion, Lord Chaitanya started to relax, and he started. And when Sachi Mata heard about that, she said, "Gadadhar Pandit, don't ever leave my son." Only you can control him. No one else can do that. So they had that really intimate relationship. Now, at one point, Lord Caitanya took sannyas, and therefore he decided to leave Navadvip, his family. And on the request of his mother, she asked him to reside in Jagannath Puri. And so he took up his residence in Puri. Now Gadadhar Pandit immediately didn't want any separation from the Lord, so he also joined the Lord in Jagannath Puri. So again, they were together. And Lord Caitanya wanted to show favor to Gadadhar Pandit, so he gave him a particular deity to worship whose name was Gopinath. That deity is now in the temple in Puri known as Tota Gopinath. Tota means garden. Yameshwara, also another name for Gopinath. And he worshipped that deity, and Lord Caitanya wanted to give Krishna in the form of that deity because Gadadhar was actually seeing Lord Caitanya in that deity as he was worshipping the Lord. So this went on for some time, and then Gadadhar Pandit thought, I should take Kshetra sannyas. Now there's different kinds of sannyas. A Kshetra sannyas means when you make a vow to stay in one holy place for the rest of your life. Sometimes ladies do that when they retire from married life. They put on white, they go to holy places, they serve the deity in the holy places, and they finish their life that way, and then ultimately they have a very good chance to go back home, back to Godhead in that mood. So that's the recommended way. So Gadadhar Pandit, he decided Kshetra sannyas. And so he took that vow, I will serve Gopinath and never leave Puri. But then one day, Lord Caitanya decided to go to Vrindavan. So he made his plan. When Gadadhar Pandit found out that the Lord was going to leave Puri, he said, I'm going with you. I can't be separated from you. Lord Caitanya said, you can't go. You made a vow to Gopinath to stay here and worship him. How can you go? How can you break your vow? Lord Caitanya. And Gadadhar said, well, you and Gopinath are non-different, so I'm with you, I'm with Gopinath also. Lord Caitanya didn't like that so much. And so he couldn't answer, but he said, all right, but no, you stay here. If I allow you to break my vow, what will people say? Well, I will be criticized. What will people say? I caused you to break your vow. No, you stay. I'm going to Vrindavan. I want to go to Vrindavan with you. You can stay here in Puri. Puri is non-different than Vrindavan. So are you non-different than Vrindavan. If I'm with you, I'm with Vrindavan also. So Lord Caitanya was defeated every time by the love, that's the point, by the love of Gadadhar Pandit. So finally the Lord decided, I'm just going to go. So he started to walk to the Mahanadi river. He got in a boat, and Gadadhar was following behind. The Lord turned around from the boat and looked at Gadadhar Pandit and said, I can't remember what he said, but he said something, and he just turned around and left. When he started to go in the boat, Gadadhar Pandit just fainted out of ecstasy and separation. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was there to pick up Gadadhar Pandit, and he said, the Lord loves you, but he does not want you to break your vow. So be patient, he'll be back, he'll be back. So Gadadhar was somewhat pacified, but not really. So the Lord went on to go to, and then he stopped in a place called, not the Shao, and then he went on to, what is that other place? Ramakeli. He went to Ramakeli, and there was, he wanted to stop and see Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. So there's a nice description of the Lord meeting Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. They became really intimate. The Lord also told them that, please join me in due course of time. And that's another part of that wonderful Leela. And then when he was about to leave, Sanatana Goswami said to Lord Chaitanya, I don't think it's a good time for you to go to Vrindavan. My Lord, do not go. It's not a good time. Lord Chaitanya listened. But then he decided to go anyway. And as he was going, he started to think, Sanatana's right. It's not a good time. I can feel it's inauspicious for me to go at this time. So he turned around, went back to Ramakeli, and then he went back to Natashala, Kanai Natashala. And then he returned to Jagannath Puri. When he got back to Puri, everyone said, wow, he's back already. Everyone was happy. And then, of course, the question is, why do you have your back so far? Did you go? No, I didn't. I couldn't go to Vrindavan. Why? Because I had hurt the heart of Gadadhar Pandit. Because I made Gadadhar Pandit unhappy, the Lord would not allow me to come to Vrindavan. Very, important point that's made here. That one should never cause any kind of distress to anyone on any level, whether it's body, mind, or words. Because a devotee is always the well-wisher of everyone. And a devotee always works for the benefit of others. And a devotee always avoids causing unnecessary distress to anyone. So that's a discretion, because Krishna is in the heart of every living entity. So when we offend another person or cause unhappiness to another person for whatever reason, that means we are actually making offense to Krishna, who sits in the hearts of that devotee. That might be hard to properly execute in this age of Kali, because so many times there's misunderstandings between devotees. And misunderstandings is due to lack of communication, and because of that, people misunderstand each other, although there's no mean feelings between them. Jai Shri Panchatattva ki jai. Sri Gadadhar Pandit ki jai. And so the Lord explained, yes, because I made a Gadadhar Pandit unhappy, I could not go. There's a beautiful pastime which happened earlier in the life of Sri Caitanya. I'm going to tell this pastime. It's a little bit of a revert back in the chronological order of this pastimes, but it's worth telling. It's very interesting, because at one point when Lord Chaitanya was in Navadvip, Pundarik Vidyanidhi came. Now, Pundarik Vidyanidhi was a very, very great devotee. He was actually King Vrishabhanu that appeared as the father of Radharani in Vrindavan. Now he's reappeared as Pundarik Vidyanidhi. But there was a special, unusual, and somewhat hard to understand nature of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He liked opulence. Lord Chaitanya is Bhakti-Vinir Vairagya Pradhan. He is renunciation personified. And his devotees follow that mood. They are very simple and very renounced. That is the mood of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. But Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he would dress in these luxurious garments that are so many beautiful colors, and he would put mascara in his eyes, and he would chew betel nut, red color, and then he would look in the mirror and smile. Haribo. And he also had personal servants. And so he was quite ostentatious, you might say. That's not a nice word, but he was somewhat flamboyant. That's a better word. He was, and so when Lord Chaitanya heard that, not he had heard, he actually sensed that Pundarik Vidyanidhi had come to Navadvip. He used to call out, Father, Father, Father. No one could understand why he was calling. Then he said one day to Gadadhar Pandit, I think you should meet Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Go and hear from him. So Gadadhar Pandit being very obedient to Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya said, Mukunda, hey Mukunda, escort Gadadhar to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Go together. So Mukunda very enthusiastically took Gadadhar Pandit, and they went to the place where Pundarik Vidyanidhi was staying. And it was a nice apartment, very nice furnishers, and it was beautiful pots and draperies and bedsteads and carpets, and everything was so elegant and luxurious and beautiful. So when Gadadhar Pandit came and he saw, I'm supposed to learn from him? He looks like a sense gratifier. Now Mukunda is really smart, right? Yes. He's got a good name because he fits the bill. And he could understand without even any communication, Gadadhar Pandit is not feeling pleased. He's thinking in a contrary way towards Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So he chanted one verse. Aho bhakiyam kalastaras kutam. You know the whole verse? I don't. Yeah. Who could be even more merciful than Lord Sri Krishna, who gave liberation to a witch named Putana, who came with the intentions to kill her by smearing poison on her breasts? That's a really weak form of paraphrase, but anyway, it's a paraphrase. In other words, he was glorifying the compassionate nature of Krishna. Although Putana had come to kill Krishna, he freed her from her witch-like nature, purified her by removing the poison, and gave her liberation, practically on the level of Mother Yasoda. Amazing. And he started to chant that verse loudly. When Pundarik Vidyanidhi heard that, he went mad. He started to act really crazy. He started ripping his clothes, rolling on the floor, calling out Krishna's names. And he was just in so much ecstasy. His servants saw what was happening to their master. They came running after him to hold him down, and they went flying in different directions. And it was just too much. This went on for 6 hours. He was rolling on the ground in ecstasy. Gadadhar Pandit's thinking, oh my God, what an offense I committed. I have to do something. And this, after 6 hours, Pundarik Vidyanidhi came back to external consciousness. He looked around, he was embarrassed. He sat there like a little kid who didn't do nothing. He was embarrassed. And so Gadadhar Pandit had communicated to Mukunda that I want to take initiation from him. Because he was thinking, I have to do something to show, that he is actually a glorious devotee, so what else can I say? Please give me initiation. So Mukunda, he translated that or transmitted that to Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and Pundarik Vidyanidhi said, oh, how fortunate it is of a person who could have such a disciple as Gadadhar Pandit. So he started to glorify Gadadhar Pandit in so many ways. And then it's explained at the end of this particular Leela that father and daughter have now again become united as guru and disciple. So beautiful, actually. And that was Caitanya Mahaprabhu's arrangement. When Gadadhar Pandit went back to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and told him the whole story and how he took shelter of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, the Lord was exceedingly happy. He was very, very happy and started to glorify Gadadhar Pandit. That's a beautiful pastime, which shows It illustrates many things, how compassionate Krishna is, and how we cannot judge a devotee by the external appearance. You never know. Some of the greatest devotees look like some of the most down-and-out people in the material world. You can't tell by their external appearance. You can tell only when they speak. It says a devotee is revealed by his speech. A fool is also revealed by his speech. So if you're a fool, don't talk. That's why I'm getting revealed right now. So, anyway, that's another story. But I'm supposed to talk, so please forgive me. And so this went on, and then of course, now we fast forward again to Jagannath Puri. And now, Gadadhar Pandit's there, and Jagannath Puri, Lord Caitanya is there. Gadadhar is very nicely worshipping his deity, Gopinath, so and nicely. One day, someone brought some really first-class rice to Gadadhar Pandit. He said, "This is for Gopinath, cook it." So Gadadhar Pandit, with such love, such attention, and such devotion, started to cook this rice, and he offered it with beautiful prayers and with so much love to Gopinath. Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the indwelling supersoul within the hearts of all living entities. He understood what was happening. Immediately came to the place of Gadadhar Pandit. He said, "Gadadhar Pandit, I know you have just offered some rice. It's the best rice, and it is offered to Gopinath. I'm here." And so Gadadhar Pandit, after offering it, he offered it to Lord Caitanya, and Lord Caitanya said, "This rice was cooked by the love of Gadadhar Pandit and offered in the same way, and Gopinath has tasted it, and now I am feeling the ecstasy of the love of Gadadhar Pandit." So it was a beautiful exchange. And then Lord Caitanya would come to Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit loved to read Bhagavatam. He had his own copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, and he would read it regularly. So Lord Caitanya would come to him and say, "Gadadhar Pandit, can you read to me?" "Yes, what?" "Well, I want to hear about Prahlad Maharaj, and I want to hear about Dhruva Maharaj." So it's explained by Vrindavan Das Thakur, who narrates this pastime, that these were the two favorite pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. He loved to hear the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj, two 5-year-old boys who were great devotees of the Lord. Not only great, but pure devotees of the Lord. And so Gadadhar would sit, and Lord Caitanya would listen, and Gadadhar would read so beautifully. He was so gentle, so soft, so unassuming. He had such a sweet nature, Gadadhar Pandit. And he would read, and Lord Caitanya would be absorbed. And he would finish the pastime, and then he would say to Gadadhar, "Read it again." And Gadadhar would immediately begin to read again. And he would read it again. And then Lord Chaitanya would say, "Read it again." And this went on to, and Vrindavan Das Thakur, who speaks this, he said this, sometimes he would listen up to 100 times the same pastime. This is Lord Chaitanya. He was teaching, although he was also experiencing how important it is to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Nasta prayeshu abhadresha nityam bhagavata sevaya bhavati bhakti bhavati uttama sloke bhakti bhavati naistiki. That one should daily hear the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is a regulative principle. We must every day read or at least hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, we are not going to make advancement. Bhagavatam is the best of all religious scriptures. It is Amalam Purana, it is Paramahansa Samhita, it is the pure narration of Krishna's pastimes, and the essence of that narration is Krishna in Vrindavan, which is the pinnacle or the height of Krishna's transcendental leelas and with his loving devotees. And so Bhagavatam is full, as Srila Prabhupada said, everything you need is in Bhagavatam. every subject is covered in Srimad Bhagavatam. You might say, how is that possible? Just read it. You will see. As Prabhupada expands on these verses, you'll see how he presents so many of other subjects in relationship to the verse, because each verse, there was a morning walk conversation with Srila Prabhupada and one professor from Germany. His name is Professor Durkheim. So Prabhupada liked Professor Durkheim. They actually immediately clicked together. Prabhupada would talk to him very openly and friendly. And Professor Durkheim was very respectful to Prabhupada, but also very intelligent in their discussions. So at one point, Prabhupada starts to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam. And he says, Bhagavatam has 18,000 verses. And it takes 1 month to understand each verse. And so then he turns to his disciples who are there. How long is that? 1 month for each verse, 18,000 verses. Anybody really quick with mathematics here?
1,500 years.
Correct. Exactly correct. 1,500 years. And when Prabhupada heard it, he said, you have enough to read. In other words, you can make Bhagavatam your whole life and you will not exhaust Srimad Bhagavatam. You will not even begin to penetrate the depths of Bhagavatam. It is so deep. And Gadadhar Pandit used to read, and Lord Chaitanya used to absorb himself so much in Bhagavatam. We're getting to the end of this particular pastime. And then, of course, as time went on, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to wind up his pastimes. After receiving the message from Advaita Acharya that it's time to finish up your pastimes. Everything you wanted to do has been done. Now leave. Advaita Acharya was the one who called him, and now he's also giving him the hint, time to go back. So the Lord was making his plan to leave. So one day there was a raging kirtan in the Gopinath temple. And all the devotees were chanting and dancing and dancing and chanting and chanting and dancing and dancing and dancing and chanting and chanting and dancing and dancing and chanting and chanting and dancing and dancing and chanting and chanting and chanting. No prasadam yet. Chanting and dancing and dancing and chanting and chanting and chanting and dancing and dancing and dancing and chanting and chanting and dancing and dancing and dancing and chanting and more dancing and chanting. Okay. There was more. I just touched the surface. Okay. And so, after some time, Lord Caitanya went into ecstasy, and he left the kirtan and went into the deity room. And then after some time, everybody noticed Lord Chaitanya is not around. And then all of a sudden, this feeling of unhappiness just pervaded the whole atmosphere. And everyone, oh my God, he's gone. They could all feel it. He's no longer with us. And when they looked around everywhere, he was gone. And that's the last time they saw him. And what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did is that he merged his existence into the body of Gopinath. Why did he leave that way? He wanted to show his love for Gadadhar Pandit, who was that was his worshipful deity. So in order to show his love for Gadadhar Pandit, he actually merged himself into that deity. And if you go, you'll see that deity, on the right leg of the deity, on the calf, there's a mark. And the pujaris, they tell you that this is where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered into the deity. Whether that's true or not, we can accept it because there's no contrary stories. So we can go ahead with that. But that and then Lord Chaitanya disappeared. When Gadadhar Pandit understood Lord Chaitanya was no longer, his unhappiness reached such high limits that it was impossible for him to go on. So it was explaining that he was aging 1 year every day because of the separation. When you love someone and that person is no longer in your life, how all of a sudden the whole world has no meaning at all? There's no meaning, and it's just like a dreary void. And you just feel, you don't want to eat, you don't want to sleep, you don't want to do nothing. You can't do nothing. All there is a big vacuum in your life, and you just think. You don't think, you just suffer. That's all you do. And so that was Gadadhar Pandit's state of consciousness. He was just... But then, at one point, Srinivasacharya comes. Now he was instructed by Mother Sachi that if you want to learn Srimad Bhagavatam, you can hear it and learn it from Gadadhar Pandit. So go to Puri and find Gadadhar Pandit and ask him to teach you. So he arrives, and now Gadadhar Pandit is being approached by Srinivas. And he wants to help this person, and so he starts to teach him Srimad Bhagavatam. But when Gadadhar Pandit was reading the Bhagavatam, after Lord Caitanya would leave, he would just cry. And when he would cry, the entire the ink would be smudged, and he couldn't read the Bhagavatam anymore. So when he was trying to teach Srinivas, it became impossible. So at one point he said to Srinivas, I can't read this Bhagavatam. So take it, go back to the scribes in Navadvip, have it recopied, bring it back, and we'll continue. But when Srinivas left to do that, Gadadhar Pandit again fell into deep ecstasy of separation. It's described that when he was trying to dress the deity of Gopinath, because of his quick aging, now he was only 48 years old. Lord Chaitanya left when he was 48. It said he was like an old man, although he was only 48. And when he tried to put the garland on the deity, he had a difficult time. His body would shake. When he tried to put the crown on the deity, he couldn't reach it anymore. And at one point, when he was trying to lift the crown up, it was impossible. And then all of a sudden, Gopinath sat down. The deity sat down, just to give his devotee an easy way to dress him. And actually, you can go and see. In Jagannath Puri, those of you who have been there, you'll see that Gopinath is in a sitting position. He sat down just to give pleasure, or just to show his love for his devotee. But during that time, when Srinivas was gone, he took some time, and when he came back, Gadadhar Pandit had disappeared from the planet. And this was true with many of the disciples of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After the disappearance of the Lord, it was impossible for them to continue to live. And one after another, they were all disappearing from the planet. How much love the devotees had for Lord Chaitanya is impossible to describe. The love was so deep and so complete that that's all they could think about, and it's all they wanted to serve was Lord Chaitanya. And so when he left, there was no meaning to life. And so out of ecstasy of separation, many of them just left the world. There was no apparent reason for their leaving except love and separation. And so, and Gadadhar Pandit, of course, left to get... So this is a little bit, not much, about the life of Gadadhar Pandit. There's many more wonderful pastimes about Gadadhar Pandit. He is so deep in his relationship with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as he explained that he is a combination of Srimati Radharani and Lalita Sakhi together. And it's interesting because Radharani, she can be fiery and she can be sweet. Lalita Sakhi is always fiery. She has that fiery nature. And so they've combined into Gadadhar Pandit, but Gadadhar Pandit is the opposite. When Vallabhacharya came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vallabhacharya was a great devotee, and he was quite well versed in Shastra. He knew scripture quite well, and he decided to do a commentary on some of the cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he was very proud of what he had done. So he went to Lord Caitanya and said, I have created a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam which surpasses the commentary of Sridhar Swami. Now Sridhar Swami is the original and accepted commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam. So Lord Caitanya didn't like that. And he said, anyone who does not accept the Swami is a prostitute. Because another name for Swami, or meaning for Swami, is husband. Swami also means husband. So a wife doesn't accept her husband, she's a what? What I said. And so when, Vallabhacharya, he didn't like that. And Lord Caitanya just dismissed him. He just did something different. But Vallabhacharya wanted to impress Lord Caitanya by his learning, so one day he compiled a whole list of names of Lord Krishna. And he wanted to, read that list to Lord Caitanya. So he said, Lord Caitanya, I have compiled a list of the names of Lord Krishna. Lord Caitanya said, I only know 2 names. Yasomati Nandana and Shyamasundar. That's all I know. And so he immediately dismissed him again. And one day, Vallabhacharya, he always wanted to impress Lord Caitanya by his learning. He said, how is it that we are chanting the name of Krishna? We are like the wife of Krishna, and it says in the Shastra that the wife should never speak her husband's name out loud. Got that, ladies? Okay. Nobody's moving. What is the proper terminology between husband and wife? Does anyone know? A wife calls a husband what? Prabhu. And what does the husband call the wife? Devi. Try that. Your wife, huh?
Even the sannyasis know those things.
We read about them. We don't know them. We just get the theoretical understanding. We repeat. That's what we're supposed to do.
You have to teach it to the household.
We have to what?
You have to teach it to the household.
Not me. It's not teachable. Not in today's age. And so, Lord Caitanya said, yes, that's true, but if the husband tells the wife to speak his name, she must obey. So therefore he defeated him again. So every time he came, Lord Caitanya would either defeat him or ignore him. And then he tried to use his knowledge on the other devotees, and they knew Lord Caitanya's mood, so they wouldn't listen to him. But one day he had written something, and he wanted to find someone to read it to, so he immediately found Gadadhar Pandit, and he sat next to him and started reading real fast before Gadadhar Pandit could run away. And Gadadhar Pandit is not that type of person, so he was thinking, oh my God, he's a great personality. But Lord Caitanya doesn't want us to listen to him. What am I going to do? So that's what he was thinking in his heart. So he started to pray to the Lord, my dear Lord, I don't want to offend him, but at the same time, I don't want to listen to him. So please forgive me. I don't know what to do. Because he was like that. He didn't want to hurt his feelings by leaving him. And so, and later on, he sat there and listened. And later on, Subdamodar Goswami said to Caitanya Mahaprabhu, no, he actually said it to Gadadhar Pandit, why did you listen to him? You know what Lord Caitanya is like. And then Lord Caitanya intervened and said, it's okay. He didn't chastise Gadadhar, because he knew Gadadhar Pandit's heart was he just didn't want to offend him by just acting differently. And so that was a little story about Vallabhacharya. Vallabhacharya is actually a great personality, and he is the founder of the Pushti Marg, which is one of the lineages of devotion, they have their sampradayas mostly around Sri Vrindavan Dham.
Ultimately, he took initiation from Gadadhar.
Right. Yes. Right. That's a good point. Ultimately, he actually was attracted to Gadadhar Pandit, and Gadadhar Pandit became his guru. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Just like Indra was chastised by Krishna for his benefit, so he realized Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always chastising me for my benefit because I'm too puffed up.
Yeah.
So he went and surrendered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
It took Gadadhar Pandit's humility and soberness to help him realize that he was a rascal. Yeah, right. But he's written some commentaries. Now he didn't do the whole Bhagavatam, but he did some. And then there was that story, maybe you heard, the devotees, knowing this pastime, wrote an article in the Back to Godhead magazine. And the article was somewhat putting down Vallabhacharya. And it got back to Sumati Morariji, the lady who sponsored Srila Prabhupada's voyage. She was the head of the Scindia steamship liner, the boat that Prabhupada went over. And she became very upset, and she wrote a letter to Prabhupada, saying they're criticizing my spiritual master. Prabhupada, I don't know what he said to her, but somehow or other he tried to pacify her. And said, well, my disciples don't know so much, so I'll instruct them. And then Prabhupada gave a little instruction. He said, Satyam Priyam, Satyam Bruyam, that one should speak the truth in a palatable way. That's not always easy, and sometimes it becomes very difficult, because palatability may also be a state of consciousness where a person doesn't accept it, even though it is palatable. So, so Prabhupada somewhat, not chastised, but corrected his disciples for writing that article. So that's a little bit about Vallabhacharya. Okay, so we're right at the hour, which is the conclusion of the talk. I'll open it up and see if there's anyone that would like to ask a question before we end. Any questions or comments? Comments? No? Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. I forgot your name.
Marcel.
Marcel.
Yeah.
Acha. Thank you.
Thank you for inspiring lecture. I would just like to ask, when you mentioned the importance of reading Srimad Bhagavatam, could you please tell some tips or some ways to read efficiently? So what are some ways, some advices to read efficiently Srimad Bhagavatam?
I think Prahlad Nanda Maharaj can answer that better than I could. But I'll try, and then Maharaj will put the topper on it. So the point is, schedule it. If you want to read, you got to schedule it. You just don't, because reading always gets sidelined. But if you put it in your schedule as part of your day and make that a part of, well, this is my time for reading Bhagavatam. So then you put that time aside. You might readjust your schedule, but if you don't make it part of your schedule, you generally forget to do it or neglect to do it, either one. Yeah. When I was here, before I went traveling, I just went traveling for 2 months. And that travel just threw my schedule up in the air. And one of the things that got lost was Bhagavatam. I just wasn't able to find the time to read again. And whatever schedule I created, I couldn't fit it in. It was just too many things going on with travel and preaching. So I couldn't do it. And so now I came back, and this morning was the first day I was back, and what did I do? I read Bhagavatam. I said, whew, meeting the old friend again. So yeah, so sometimes I wasn't able to schedule it. It's just because of what I was doing. But then when I came back, I said, here's the time, and I'm going to put it in, and this is what I'm going to do at this time. And when you do that, and you become, after doing it a few days, you get a taste for that reading. Once the taste develops, and you look forward to that time. It's no more, just a scheduled program. It's something you look forward to. Okay.
Thank you.
Anything you want to add, Maharaj? Okay. We're an equal opportunity employer here. Okay.
Well, there's unlimited numbers of ways we can become attracted to the Bhagavatam. But one way is that we have to assimilate it. We have to digest it. It's like if you eat a fantastic meal, but you don't assimilate it, you don't digest it, then it has no effect. So when we read, we should make sure that we're actually hearing the Bhagavatam. I know, like, for one day, I was reading the Bhagavad-Gita. Well, I was on book distribution, and no one would take a book for an hour. I was getting really frustrated. So I sat down and I read the Bhagavad-Gita, and it said that everyone is Krishna's servant. Something very simple, and that we should try to help them. So I said, wow, that's it. They're all Krishna's servants, I should try to help them. And I went out there enthusiastically, and everyone took a book. But it took me, because my mind was so agitated, it took me at least 3 or 4 times to read the same thing over and over again, till finally I actually heard what it was saying. And I said, wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, we get a whole change of consciousness. As soon as we get a change of consciousness, Krishna says, oh, okay, you got it now.
Yeah, so we should read until we actually hear it. Yeah. And one way of actually making sure we've heard what we read is to read something and close the book and see if we actually can remember what we just read. Yeah. At least the book that we read.
It's not... You're making it too easy now.
Oh, sometimes it gets hard.
Okay. So, yeah. Yeah, it's just, yeah. What was that class about? What was a good class? What did he say? That was interesting. What did you read today? Bhagavatam. Which part? Oh, come on, don't ask so many questions. Yeah, the forgetfulness is a feature of Kali Yuga.
Yeah, then the next step, if we can remember, then we should try to see what it's saying.
Right.
What's actually being, what Krishna is telling us, what Prabhupada is telling us. And then if we understand it, then we should see the opportunity to apply it in our lives. Mm-hmm. And if we do that, then it becomes realized. And so
what you're saying is that Bhagavatam is talking to us when we read it. It's not just theoretical philosophy that is on the pages. It's being spoken to us, and we are the recipient of that. And we take it as personal as we read it.
And Prabhupada's talking to us also.
Yeah. Yeah, directly. I tell one little story in my life, that not to illustrate anything special, but it happened, and it's really a powerful experience I had. I was reading Bhagavatam for a long time in my room in Chicago many years ago. And I was reading, and then at one point, I was no longer reading, but the words were speaking right from the page. I was hearing Srila Prabhupada's voice speak the words as I was going through the words. And this went on for some time. And I was thinking, yes, Prabhupada said, I'm in my books. If you want to associate with me, read my books, I'm here. And then after one point it stopped, and that was the only time that ever happened. But I took it as a message that, yes, Prabhupada said he's in his books. And he wanted me to help me understand that. So if you want to associate with Srila Prabhupada, you want to associate with higher knowledge, just read as if it's coming directly to you. It is. Just read in that way. It's about you. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason for that. But I'm not going to try and figure it out. Only mothers can figure that one out. Sundar Gopal, you had a question. You were pointing to him. Be careful. Okay. All right, so we'll stop there. Now, I think there's prasadam for everyone, and it's a feast for Gadadhar Pandit's appearance. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Holiness Chandrabhavana Swami Maharaj ki, Gadadhar Pradhananda Swami Maharaj ki, Gadadhar Pandit ki, jai. Hare Krišna. Ja, lepo predavanje je bilo to, kirtan je bil čudovit, da je energičen, zdaj pa sledi še tako, kar se spodobi za vsak festival in praznik, rojstni dan, velika pojedina, vegetarijanska pojedina. Rad bi še prej povedal, da za to pojedino so se potrudili številni bhakte, pa je prav tudi, da jih lepo omenimo. Lahko začnem kar lepo na začetku z Ananta Prabhujem, pa potem Gokul Vallabha Prabhu, Vidurnata Prabhu, Basar Sakshi Gopal Prabhu, Nadbi Ganga Mataji, Somya Datri Mataji, Bhakta Vatsalanitai Prabhu, Janava Mataji, Bhaktina Slajana, Premananda Prakasha Prabhu, Bhakta Egon, Mukunda Madhava Prabhu, Bhaktina Janja, potem Bhakta Arjan, Bhakta Doman, Udava Mitra Prabhu, Bhakta Luka in Bhakta Simon in mogoče še kdo, ki sem ga izpustil. Shravana Ramanija Mataji, jai, Hare Krišna. Tako je, da zaželeni so prostovoljni prispevki. Vse inspirirane pa tudi vabimo za pomoč pri umivanju tempelske dvorane po prasadamu, tako da, če kdo želi, se lahko priključi ekipi. Hvala vam za vašo pozornost, za vaš obisk, želimo vam prijetno druženje še naprej. Pred prasadamom pa seveda sledi še molitev. Sharira Vidajar, Jonendriya Tahekar, Jive Pale Vishaya Sagore, Taramade Jivati, Lo Moj Sudurmati, Takečeda Katrina Sansare, Krishna Bado Dove Moj, Kori Bare Jiva Joy, Svaprasat Anadila Bai, Senamrita Pao, Radha Krishna Gunagao, Premedako Caitanya Nitai, Shri Panchatattva Mahaprasadam ki, Hare Krishna, draga bhakti.
चेतदर्पणमार्जनम् भवमहादावाग्निनिर्वापनम् श्रियभैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणम् विद्यावधुजीवनम् आनन्दाम्बुधिवर्धनम् प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतास्वादनम् परं विजयते श्रीकृष्ण संकीर्तनम् नाम नामकारि बहुधा निज सर्वशक्ति तत्रार्पिता नियमित स्मरणेन कालम् ईतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुःखैवमिदृशमिहाजनिनानुरागम् त्रीनादपि सहिष्णुनां करोरपि सहिष्णुनां अमानिनामानतेन भव महादावाग्निर्वापनम् व्यक्तैरवचन्द्रतात् चेतदर्पणमार्जनम् भवमहादावाग्निर्वापनम् श्रेयस्कैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणम् विद्यावधूजीवनम् श्रेयस्कैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणम् विद्यावधूजीवनम् एतदर्पणमार्जनम् भवमहादावाग्निर्वापनम् श्रेयस्कैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणम् विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दाम्बुधिवर्धनम् प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतास्वादनम् परं विजयते श्रीकृष्ण संकीर्तनम् आनन्दाम्बुधिवर्धनम् प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतास्वादनम् सर्वात्मसपनम् परं विजयते श्रीकृष्ण संकीर्तनम् नवमहादावाग्निर्वापनम् त्रयकैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणम् विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दामृतवर्धनम् प्रतिपदम् पूर्णामृतसाधनम् सर्वात्मनिर्भणम् परं विजयति श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनम् राम नामकारी बहुधा निज सर्वशक्ति तत्रार्पिता नियमित स्मरणे न कालम् एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि राम नाम कार्य बहुधा निज सर्वशक्ति तत्रार्पिता नियमित स्मरणे न कालम् एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैव दृशमिहा जनीनानुरागम् एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि विद्यैवैदसमहं जनिनानुरागम् एतदर्पणमार्जनम् नवमहादावाग्निर्वापनम् त्रयकैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणम् विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दामृतवर्धनम् प्रतिपदम् पूर्णामृतसाधनम् परं विजयते करोरपि सही मानवेन कीर्तनेन सदा हरि श्रीनादपि समीचीन करोरपि सहिष्णुना अमानिन मानवेन कीर्तनीय सदा हरि ऐनन्दतनया धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितामवजगती सखामयी न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितामवजगती सखामयी मम जन्मनि जन्मनि शरे भवतात् भक्ति मम जन्मनि जन्मनि शरे भवतात् भक्ति एकदर्शनमार्जनम् भवमहादावाग्निष्पापनम् श्रेयकैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणम् विद्यावद्जीवनम् आनन्दामदीवर्धनम् प्रतिपदम् पूर्णामृतास्वादनम् सर्वात्मसकलम् परम् विजयते श्रीकृष्णसंकीर्तनम् एकदर्शनमार्जनम् ऐनन्दतनया पतितं किङ्करममां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ ऐनन्दतनया पतितं किङ्करममां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कजस्थितः धूलिसदृशं विचिन्तया ऐनन्दतनया पतितं किङ्करममां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया पङ्कजस्थितो तदत्वनमार्जनम्